The Bible talks about demons. The Gospels are full of stories of people possessed, tormented by evil spirits that cause blindness, deafness, convulsions, and madness. And then Jesus arrives. With a word, a touch, he casts out these entities. It's the image we have in our minds. The Messiah against the forces of darkness. But what if the story was different? What if what people saw as demons in the first century were nothing more than what we now know as diseases? The blindness of one man, the deafness of another, the violent convulsions of a child. What if Jesus' miracles, viewed in a modern light, were not supernatural exorcisms, but healings of a type that our science can now describe? It's a provocative idea, daring, but it's rooted not in doubt, but in curiosity. The same curiosity that has led us to understand the world. Let's step back in time, to a world very different from ours. A world without Mr. without EEGs, without psychiatry. When a person had an epileptic seizure, what did witnesses see? A body violently shaking, an inhuman scream, the person falling to the ground as if struck by an invisible force. They knew nothing of irregular neural discharges. They didn't have the word epilepsy. The only explanation that made sense in that era was the simplest one. An evil spirit had taken control. It had possessed that person. The same with mental illnesses. A person who hears voices, who speaks incoherently, who isolates themselves from society, or behaves aggressively. How did they explain it? There were no concepts of schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. The most logical thing was to think that a demon, or a group of them, was using that person's body like a puppet. The story of the Gadarene demoniac in the Gospel of Mark is a perfect example. A man with superhuman strength, who lived among the tombs, who self-harmed. People were afraid of him. They couldn't control him. Jesus meets him and asks his name. The answer is Legion, for we are many. What we see here is an extreme manifestation of a mental illness that today could be diagnosed in many ways. Perhaps a dissociative disorder, maybe schizophrenia, but in their time, it was a legion of demons. This is not an attempt to discredit Jesus. It's an attempt to understand him better, to peel back the layer of mythology and see the heart of the matter. Compassion. Jesus did not turn away from these people. He did not judge them. He approached them, he treated them with dignity, and somehow he restored their health. He healed them. It is an act of profound empathy. The difference is that what the Gospels call an exorcism, we might call a healing. In Mark 9, a father brings his son to Jesus. The child suffers from a mute spirit that causes him to convulse. It throws him into the fire, into the water, leaves him breathless. The father says it's a demon. The description is astonishingly precise. It's a clinical picture of epilepsy. Jesus casts out the demon, and the child is healed. He isn't prescribed a pill. He isn't given therapy. But he is healed. The question isn't whether Jesus did something. The question is what he did. Was it a supernatural act of spirit expulsion or an act of healing that worked on a level we still do unfully comprehend? Perhaps his presence, his authority, his touch, his faith, somehow calmed the child's nervous system. It reduced the frequency of the seizures, and for the father and the witnesses, the result was what mattered. His son was cured. The concept of a demon was the only explanation they had at hand. It was their way of describing the inexplicable. And Jesus, instead of correcting the terminology, operated within their frame of reference. He didn't say, "Your son has an irregular electrical discharge in his brain." He used the language they understood. Ecclesiastical tradition throughout the centuries has cemented the idea of demons as supernatural beings. It's the basis for a vast theology of evil and possession. But when we examine the accounts, we see inconsistencies. Why are some demons mute, others blind, and others cause epilepsy? If they are all evil spiritual beings, why are their effects so specific and so similar to the diseases we know today? The Gospel of Matthew 12 says that a blind and mute man is brought to Jesus, and Jesus heals him. The Pharisees say he casts out demons by the prince of demons. The text attributes it to a demon, but is that what the man had? Or was it just the way the Gospel authors understood the cause of blindness and muteness? For them, there was no difference. The cause was supernatural. Today, we have the ability to see blindness and muteness as neurological or physical conditions. One perspective does not exclude the other. Faith and science do not have to be adversaries. They can be companions on a journey. It is possible to believe that Jesus was a divine healer, without having to believe in a legion of demons that cause convulsions. This humanistic view of the miracles has profound implications. It changes our relationship with illness and with those who suffer from it. It forces us to question the idea that sickness is a punishment, a judgment, or the result of a demonic influence. Instead, it invites us to compassion, to see the person who suffers, not the demon that possesses them. It asks the church of today to follow Jesus' example and not condemn those with mental illnesses, but to embrace them, to seek their healing, to use science, medicine, psychology, compassion, to help those who suffer, not to tell them that they need to be stronger, that their lack of faith prevents them from healing, or that they are possessed by an evil spirit. Instead, we must follow Jesus' example and say, "I am here, I see you, I will help you." This is the true essence of Jesus' miracles. They are not magic tricks. They are acts of radical love and compassion. They are a demonstration of a power that is not one of domination, but of service. His power was not in the ability to cast out ghosts, but in the ability to see the other, to understand their suffering, and to offer healing. It is a vision that challenges our ingrained beliefs, that invites us to let go of literalism and embrace meaning, that asks us to look at the biblical accounts not as a biology or psychiatry textbook, but as a map of the human heart, and that reminds us that true divinity is found in the ability to heal, to restore, to love. This new perspective does not strip the Gospels of their power. On the contrary, it enhances it. The power of a man who, in a world full of superstition and fear, had the courage to see beyond the surface, who saw a broken man living among the tombs and instead of a monster, saw a suffering human being. It's a message that resonates today more than ever. In a world where the stigma of mental illness continues to be a burden for many, Jesus' example is a beacon of light. It is a call to action for the church and society to unite to fight illness with compassion, with science, and with faith. The story of Jesus and the demons is not a story of exorcisms, it is a story of healing, the greatest of all.